Hello everyone, this is Earth Archives. We all know that George Washington, the founding father of the United States, suffered from a cold, which worsened into laryngitis and pneumonia, but the doctor used bloodletting therapy. As a result, he died of excessive blood loss on December 14, 1799. But when Washington died, someone stood up and wanted to the man who resurrected Washington was not a psychic or a charlatan. Let's learn about this hidden story today. Before the show starts, please subscribe, share, and turn on the little bell. This will help us grow faster. Without further ado, the show begins. The frosty air stung Dr. William Thornton's cheeks as he urged his horse forward, desperation lending wings to their hooves. With every stride, he prayed that he could outrun the icy hand of death, reaching Mount Vernon before it claimed his dearest friend, George Washington. As Thornton thundered up to the grand estate, hope warred with dread in his heart. The sight that greeted him inside the drawing room shattered his resolve like brittle ice. There, amidst a sea of sorrowful faces, lay Washington's lifeless form, frozen in death's embrace, his once vibrant spirit extinguished by illness. But Thornton refused to accept defeat. Ignoring the solemn murmurs of mourners, he stepped forward with a declaration that hung in the air like a lightning bolt in a stormy sky. He could bring Washington back from the brink of eternity. Whispers of genius, the many faces of William Thornton. Picture this, folks. William Thornton wasn't your everyday quack dabbling in the murky waters of pseudoscience, oh no. My buddy Jonathan Horn, the sharp guy who penned Washington's End, The Final Years and Forgotten Struggle, tells us Thornton was all brains and no brawn. He was like the main man of the Enlightenment, a real Thomas Jefferson doppelganger, thinking he could pretty much cure the common cold with science and a pinch of reason. Now, get this. Thornton popped into the world down in the tropical British West Indies, 1759. Fast forward and we find him soaking up medical know-how in Scotland, which he must have thought was too chilly, because in 1787 he hightailed it to the States and snagged himself American citizenship. Here's the kicker. Thornton couldn't tell a flying buttress from a hole in the ground. Architecture wasn't really his jam. But that didn't stop old George Washington from A-ing Thornton's doodles for the brand spanking new U.S. Capitol and saying, yep, that's the one. So in 1793, our polymath pal wins the jackpot. And the next year, just 'cause he's got that Midas touch, he gets the gig to oversee the whole shebang going up in D.C. Now, Thornton wasn't just about grand buildings and national pride. No sir, he was deep into the ZZs, studying the land of Nod like it was his personal business. Sleep wasn't just sleep. It was a door to the mystery zone. He scribbled down every yarn he heard about critters, and people, mind you, bouncing back to life from what he called suspended animation. Dead? Nah, just taking a break. And this guy was in with the Royal Humane Society, a bunch of London lifesavers from back in 74, the year that is, 1774. They were all over mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, something Mr. William Tossack, a surgeon fella, scribbled about in 1744. They used it to snatch the seemingly drowned from the jaws of the watery deep, blowing life right back into M. Can you believe it? Shadows of dread. Washington's phobia of the living tomb. In a world where the line between life and death was as thin as a thread, the fear of being buried alive was more of a chilling reality than a mere bedtime story. It was the kind of story that pushed people into the arms of paranoia, gripping them tight with something called taphophobia. This dread gave birth to something straight out of a horror flick, safety coffins with strings leading to above-ground bells. Just imagine laying 6 feet under, and then, oops, you're not quite dead. A little tug on the string, and ding-dong, hey, I made a mistake down here. On the frosty eve of December 14, 1799, none other than George Washington, the titan among men, lay whispering his final fears into the ears of his loyal secretary, Tobias Lear. Wait. Just wait at least 2 days before you put me in the ground, he pleaded. The thought of waking up wrapped in darkness and silence beneath the earth haunted even him. Washington's final hours were the stuff of nightmares. A throat infection clutched him by the neck, making each breath a battle. His body became a battleground for doctors and a Mount Vernon overseer who, with a grim determination, drained him of 2 liters of his essence in a desperate attempt to balance the humor within his body. It was a medical Hail Mary that left Washington gasping for mercy, until he finally asked, politely, because he was George Washington, after all, for them to stand down. Enter William Thornton, not Washington's regular doc but a man who fancied himself a miracle worker. He arrived at Mount Vernon, a place he knew well enough to call his second home. Thornton, with his eyes ablaze with the fire of innovation, and perhaps a dash of madness, thought he saw a sliver of hope. He proposed to bring Washington back from the dead. Yes, you heard it right. His plan sounded like it leaped out from the pages of a Gothic novel: dunk Washington's body in cold water, wrap him in blankets to warm him up, slice open a passage to his lungs and breathe life into them, and for the grand finale, pump in lamb's blood to replace what was lost. Thornton wasn't trying to play God. Oh no, he was scientifically curious. He died from a loss of blood and lack of air. Bring those back, crank up the heat, and voila, we can revive him, Thornton might as well have said, confident in his Enlightenment-era science. But alas, Thornton stood alone in his crusade. The folks at Mount Vernon, still reeling from the loss and the dignity with which Washington faced his end, said, thanks, but no thanks. They couldn't fathom disturbing the general's peace after such a battle, nor could they entertain the notion of snatching him back from death's grip. Washington had wished for a quiet exit, and they intended to honor that, leaving Thornton and his audacious plan as mere footnotes in the annals of history. Thornton's quest, the Patriarch's final journey to the capital. Alright, strap in because this tale takes another twist. Our good Dr. Thornton just couldn't sit still, no sir. The very idea of George Washington, the country's VIP #1, just lying around in the estate grounds like an ordinary Joe, it didn't jive with Thornton's grand vision. He had grander plans for America's beloved hero, a special spot designed by yours truly under the gleaming dome of the U.S. Capitol. If he couldn't jolt Washington back to life, at least he could have the Capitol stand as a monumental headstone, yeah. In the days that trailed the general's exit stage left, President John Adams, sensing an opportunity, reached out to Martha Washington. Now, remember, Martha was riding solo as the executor of the will, calling the shots on the afterlife abode of her hubby. And though she'd been apart from George more than she liked when he was alive, she wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea of being separated for all eternity. But, much like a twist in a daytime soap, Martha yielded to Adams. Sure, take him if it's for the greater good, or something along those lines. She must have sighed, putting her personal wishes back in the box for the sake of Uncle Sam's crib. Congress, not wanting to look like the bad guy in a drama, said, hey, we've got some prime real estate in the crypt, and it's big enough for two. But then, the plot thickened. Between tight wallets, scant resources, and a little British barbecue party at the Capitol during the War of 1812, building the final resting place turned out to be a bigger soap opera than anyone bargained for. Come 1832, as everyone geared up for Washington's centennial birthday bash, Virginians started to kick up a fuss. He's ours, and he's staying put. They hollered, clamping down the idea of moving Washington's bones. His newly minted tomb at Mount Vernon became a fortress guarding his remains. And just like that, the Capitol crypt plans were about as alive as the general, yep, pretty dead. And that, my friends, is how the grand old estate of Mount Vernon became the eternal block party for Washington, Martha, and 25 of their nearest and dearest. It's a family affair over there, and no other place could hold a candle, or a bell, if you will, to the final resting place of America's first power couple. What do you think about this story? Please leave your comments. See you in the next episode.